Well, good afternoon and welcome to Cape Breton Realty, our weekly update for November 8th. Last week's conversation stimulated a lot of interest and questions around financing and how the reduction in the Bank of Canada rate might impact real estate and the market here in Cape Breton. So today we've invited John Angus Ferguson, a mortgage broker with the Premier Mortgage Center here in St. Peter's, to explain what home buyers should know when borrowing for a house or shopping for a mortgage. So John, welcome and thank you for coming and joining us here for the Cape Breton Realty's weekly update.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Let's start off by you just telling us a little bit about yourself and your background.
Well, I'm from Cape Breton. I grew up here in St. Peter's and spent about 10 years in Ontario and then moved back to Nova Scotia in 2015, and I've been a mortgage broker now for about 6 years.
Okay. Well, you recognize that there's a lot of moving parts to what goes into applying for and getting a mortgage, and there's no one size fits all. Obviously, yeah. The objective of today is just to give a sort of a general overview, so that some of our clients and interested Facebook followers can get some advice or at least some ideas about what is involved in applying for and receiving and being accepted for a mortgage. So there's a couple of ways I know that people can get mortgages in Canada. Maybe you just want to explain to us the different ways that people can get mortgages.
Yeah, so if someone's looking for a mortgage, they can, a traditional way to do it is go see their bank or credit union, and the other option would be to come see a licensed mortgage professional like myself, and would be happy to help them out.
And what is it about the service that you provide that sort of differentiates you from the big five banks?
Well, going to a licensed mortgage professional just gives the client more options. We have access to 3 of the 5 major banks. We have access to majority of the credit unions, as well as over 30 different monoline lenders, as well that just deal in mortgage lending.
So it's just a broader, you can pull from a broader sort of set of banks or institutions that are offering mortgages.
Yeah, exactly. So another thing about that is when you're dealing with one institution, they can only offer the products they have, whereas sometimes you're approved for a mortgage if quite a few months before the closing, whereas with us, if you're approved for a mortgage and at a different lender has a lower rate at the time or getting closer to your closing date, that we can always find you the best rate at the time.
Okay, you have that flexibility. Yeah. You're not locked in, and
yeah, exactly.
It's not your only choice. Yeah. Okay. When it comes to like home buying considerations, purchasing a home is often the largest financial commitment that most people will ever make in their lifetime. From your experience, what would you say are the most critical factors a buyer should consider before taking the plunge into home ownership or buying a home?
Yeah, well, the 3 main factors that we look at when you're looking to apply for a mortgage is your credit, your income verification, and down payment, access to down payment.
Okay. And so for borrowers who are looking to make the best decision on a mortgage, what kind of resources are available to them that they can check out? I mean, I know there's a lot of stuff that's online and things like that.
Yeah, so I would just recommend, the best thing to do would be to reach out to your local mortgage professional and get the conversation started, and they can help advise. And one big thing is that I ask my clients all the time is is who's on your team, right? So like what I mean by that is you know, do you have a realtor that you're working with? Do you have a lawyer that you're working with? Do you have a mortgage professional that you're working with? So you can get a good team of people behind you that you trust to help you through one of, like you said, the largest transactions most people are ever gonna have.
Right, yeah. And are there sort of some rules of thumb that you use, some percentages or some ratios when it comes to, for example, total debt in terms of being able to pay, you know, the monthly fees of a mortgage, and are there any other things that you would consider in terms of other forms of debt or other expenses that people have in their lives that you see sometimes people don't consider or don't look at or don't include?
Yeah, for sure. In the majority of cases, to qualify for a mortgage, the mortgage itself, so your mortgage payment, your property tax, and the heating component of it can't exceed 39% of your monthly take-home income. Sorry, your monthly gross income.
Right.
And then on top of that, it can't exceed 44% of your total gross income. And that would be combining those mortgage payments as well as any other debts that you have. So car loans, lines of credits, credit cards, any consumer debt that you're paying a monthly fee on.
Okay. And you know, when someone is in a situation where they're applying for a mortgage and they've got a particular house in mind that they want to purchase, are there any things that you typically see that are not included sort of in the budget that should be included also? Any things that get, you know, neglected or not recognized?
Yeah, absolutely. Most people know that they need, you know, at least 5% of a down payment or more to start, but a lot of people don't budget for the other costs. So one of the big ones would be a deed-transfer tax that you have to pay, and that varies depending on, you know, your location, but on average probably a 1.5% of the purchase price is what you're looking at for that. But on top of that, you also have legal fees. There could be appraisal costs depending on the situation, inspection costs. So there are quite a few other smaller expenses that come along with it as well.
Sure, yeah. One that we also see is either a sort of a homeowners association or also the fuel oil, you know,
Yes, exactly.
portion. Because typically what happens is that the oil tank is filled up, you know, prior to closing, and so the buyer has to pay for that.
Exactly. They get a full tank, but that comes at closing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that's, you know, and that's typically even nowadays like $1,500, you know, dollars for a full tank of oil. You know, that's it's a non-negligible, you know, sum of money certainly. When you're coming right down to it.
Exactly, and another point on that would be property taxes. So you're also responsible for any of the property taxes that the previous owner may have already paid up front. So there could be a property tax adjustment payment on closing as well.
That's right. It's apportioned according to, you know, where you are in the cycle, the property tax cycle, and if they've, you know, paid the entire year, you have to pay the portion for the remaining portion of the year.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me look at some of the other questions that I might have here. You mentioned some of the things that you would need for the mortgage application qualification, having all that available, knowing your credit score, knowing, you know, being prepared for all this, is something that you would want to be doing before you actually, put an offer in on the house, right? Is there kind of a step by step approach that you would recommend where the people, need to be in terms of their preparation?
Yeah, for sure. I would absolutely make sure that people are pre-approved and have a proper pre-approval talking to a professional. And that professional should be collecting documents and verifying where they're at, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're wasting your own time, or realtors are out there showing homes for people that are out of their price range, right? So there are some apps and stuff out there. We call them like pre-qualifications. There's no verification done on the information getting put in, so the pre-qualification's only as good as the information that's going in. But when you talk to a professional and you get a proper pre-approval, then they can verify documents and give a good estimate of what you could afford.
And can you give us some examples of the types of documents that you would need in terms of verification, like employment, record of employment and that kind of thing?
Yeah. Generally speaking, for employment, we would want an employment letter from the employer stating how long they've been employed with them, their salary or their hourly wage, or how they're paid. A couple of the most recent pay stubs, and if they work for themselves, we may ask for tax returns as well, 2 years tax returns. Salary with any overtime or bonus income, we would also be looking for the T4 for the past 2 years as well.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. And as far as typically the time frame that you see when someone does put in an offer to purchase a home, the delay before, or at least what are the sort of guidelines that you give to have enough time for the bank to give the approval for the mortgage, such that the conditions of the buyer for financing could be waived within a reasonable amount of time?
Yeah, we like to get at least 10 business days to make sure that we can get the financing that best suits that client. There's cases where we can do it quicker than the 10 days, and there's times, depending on if appraisals are needed and stuff like that, where we could need an extension on that as well. But typically speaking, 10 days for financing.
Okay. So yeah, because we have that conversation with clients, as a realtor, you need to know, okay, we're making an offer, but we also have to have the date by which these conditions will be satisfied, such that we can waive those conditions. And typically we give a guideline of 2 weeks. So as long as we're within that 2 week, 10-day period, it's probably, you're probably safe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. And lastly, just any advice or any ideas that you could give to new home buyers or first-time home buyers that they might not be aware of, any sort of programs that might be available. What is it that when you get a first-time home buyer coming to you for your services, what do you sort of take them through in terms of the program?
Yeah, so that's another reason it's important to talk to a professional about it, because it can be a stressful process, especially if you're going through it for the first time. You don't know what you don't know. So with first-time home buyers, they have a couple of programs that are available to them. Most provinces have their own down payment assistance program. Nova Scotia has one, so I would explain that and go through the process if that's something that they qualified and were interested in. They can also use their RSP, any RSP savings that they have. There's a program through the government as well that they're allowed to borrow from that and pay
Oh,
it back.
okay, for a deposit.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're able to borrow from their RSPs without any tax implications as long as it's paid back within the time frame allowed.
Oh, good to know. Okay. Well, we'll end it there. And so, thank you very much, John Angus, for being here today. We appreciate your input. We're going to post this on our Facebook page, and so you'll be able to see it. And also, I'll put in John Angus's contact information. So for anyone who's looking for a mortgage specialist, someone who could handle, being your broker for a mortgage, if you have an interest in that, you'll have his contact information. So, thank you very much for your time this afternoon.
My pleasure, Everett. Thank you for having me.
And we'll look forward to. We've already made plans to have more in-depth sort of conversations regarding some of the things that about mortgages that are the sort of the fine points, so that we can also communicate that information when it comes to what's the difference between a fixed versus a variable rate mortgage and that kind of thing. So yeah.
Happy to get into that with you as well.
All right. And as is our tradition on Friday afternoon, we're going to toast the weekend with a little Glenora single malt whiskey.
Cheers.
Sláinte.